What if your perfect vacation wasn't an escape from the real world, but a deep dive into its most brutal power dynamics? We usually think of luxury resorts as a paradise, a place to relax, to be pampered, to reinvent yourself for a week. But what if it's actually a political battlefield in disguise, a place where global hierarchies of race, wealth, and desire are on full display? The hit HBO series White Lotus uses the luxury resort to expose the biting political drama hiding beneath the cocktails and sunset views. It's a story about who gets to relax and who has to smile while serving. In this episode of Small Screens, Big Issues, we're unpacking this brilliant satire as a sharp critique of modern inequality, neo-colonialism, and the deeply political nature of desire.
Welcome to the White Lotus.
Mike White's The Dark Lotus is more than just brilliant dark comedy. It's a brutal and insightful examination of global power dynamics hiding in plain sight at a luxury resort. In this episode, we'll use the show's seasons to unpack three interconnected concepts. First, how high-end tourism often functions as a form of neo-colonialism and commodified history. Second, the raw and often cringeworthy reality of modern class conflict, especially where it intersects with sexual politics. And third, the political and emotional costs of service and emotional labor. For those who haven't seen it, each show is an anthology series. Each season follows a group of wealthy, dysfunctional guests and the beleaguered staff who serve them over the course of 1 week, a week that inevitably ends in death. Season 1 in Hawaii explores the dynamics of American wealth, race, and settler colonialism. Season 2 takes us to Sicily, focusing on sexual politics, transactional relationships, and the decaying romance of old world patriarchy. And Season 3 in Thailand offers a satirical look at death, Eastern religion, and the Western impulse to commodify spirituality. But at its core, it's a story about the collision of the global super rich and the local populations who cater to their every whim. It's a show about the paradise you pay for and the price that others have to pay for it. The show places its resorts in real-world locations with complex histories: Hawaii, Sicily, and Thailand. This allows it to explore a powerful concept: tourism as a modern form of neo-colonialism. Neo-colonialism isn't about direct political control. It's the use of economic and cultural pressure to influence other countries. High-end tourism can often function in this way, creating economic dependency and exoticizing local cultures for Western consumption. In Season 1, the wealthy American guests treat Hawaiian culture as an amenity. They're living on colonized land, largely oblivious to the local reality. As the native Hawaiian character Kai points out, the resort is just the latest in a long line of colonial extractions. But the guests demand authenticity, but only as a commodified experience, curated, safe, and served on their convenient schedule. Season 2 shifts the lens from active settler colonialism to the consumption of history. The DeGracio men, Bert, Dominic, and Albie, are all taking a roots tour, seeking connections to a romanticized, hyper-masculine Sicilian past they don't actually understand. They see the land and its people through the lens of The Godfather, reducing complex culture to a movie fantasy. For them, as for the guests in Hawaii, the location isn't a real place with real people, it's a backdrop for their personal dreams. The past is buried beneath beachfront property or turned into cheesy tourist excursions. In both cases, the power dynamics of colonialism remain, just repackaged as a five-star resort experience. And Season 3 highlights a similar dynamic in Thailand, focusing not just on temporary tourists, but on the figure of the Western expat. Expats represent a more permanent, yet often equally insulated form of a foreign presence. They may see themselves as more enlightened than the fleeting vacationer, engaging with Eastern spirituality and local culture on a deeper level. But as Gary and Chloe reveal, the expat community can function as a modern colonial enclave, creating its own bubble of privilege while still participating in the very systems of economic and cultural consumption it claims to transcend. Similarly, through Pepper Ratcliffe's desire to move to Thailand to live in a Buddhist monastery, the show offers a powerful critique of the politics of finding yourself abroad, where the search for authenticity can become the most subtle form of extraction yet. At its heart, The White Lotus is a masterclass in class conflict. It shows that class isn't just about money, it's about power, insulation, and the luxury of obliviousness. In season 1, we see this in the tragic story of Belinda, the spa manager. She offers genuine care to the wealthy, unstable Tanya, who dangles the promise of investing in Belinda's own wellness business. Belinda's hope is a heartbreaking illustration of the myth of benevolent capitalism, the idea that the rich might lift you up. But for Tanya, the promise is just a transaction to secure emotional support. Once she finds a new source of validation, Belinda is discarded. Season 2 explores a different, more proactive form of class warfare through the characters of Lucinda and Mia. They're local Sicilian women who understand the transactional nature of the world they inhabit and decide to use it to their advantage. Lucinda, a sex worker, is not a passive victim. She's a brilliant strategic actor who understands the desires and insecurities of the wealthy men she services. She sees their wealth and entitlement not as an insurmountable barrier, but as a weakness to be exploited. While Belinda waited for a handout, Lucinda executes a plan to extract €500,000 from Albie by performing the role of damsel in distress. And this is where the show gets really interesting, showing how class conflict is deeply intertwined with sexual politics. Lucinda and Mia use their sexuality as a form of capital, the one tool they have to negotiate a system built by and for men like Cameron and Dominic. It's a dangerous game, but a form of agency that characters like Belinda never had. Finally, the show forces us to look at the product the resort is actually selling. It isn't a room or a meal, it's a feeling of effortless perfection. And that feeling is produced through a specific and politically significant kind of work, emotional labor. The sociologist Arlie Hochschild coined the term to describe the invisible, exhausting work of managing feelings to create publicly observable facial and bodily display. In season 1, Armand's spectacular descent into a drug-fueled chaos is a direct response to the psychological cost of constant demeaning emotional labor. He's expected to absorb the guests' narcissism, solve their manufactured problems, and smile through it all until he finally snaps. Season 2 gives us a different portrayal of this pressure in the hotel manager Valentina. She isn't self-destructing like Armand, but she is emotionally repressed, channeling all her energy into the rigid enforcement of professional standards. Her job requires her to maintain a pristine, emotionless facade, leaving no room for her own personal desires, which she can only awkwardly express in stolen moments. Her story shows the cost of emotional labor isn't always a spectacular explosion. Sometimes it's a slow, quiet suffocation. Both Armand and Valentina must enforce the core rule of the service industry, invisibility. The labor must be done, but the laborer must not be seen as a full, complex human being. Their personal lives, their frustrations, their very humanity must be hidden from view to maintain the illusion of paradise for guests. So, what's the big takeaway from The White Lotus? The show uses the luxury resort as a perfect laboratory, a petri dish, to dissect the pathologies of our globalized world. It argues that there's no such thing as an apolitical vacation. Every interaction, from the check-in desk to the bedroom, is saturated with power. It reveals how the vast, abstract forces we read about, global inequality, class divisions, the legacy of colonialism, the dynamics of patriarchy, play out in the most personal, intimate, and often humiliating ways. The show's ultimate statement is about the coercive nature of extreme wealth. It's not just that the guests are rich, it's that their wealth allows them to be insulated from consequences. It grants them the power to treat entire places, cultures, and other peoples as commodities to be consumed for their own pleasure and personal growth. Whether it's Tanya seeking spiritual enlightenment in Hawaii or Albie seeking romance in Sicily, they're consumers in the marketplace of experiences, and the staff and locals are just the products. The White Lotus is a dark, funny, and deeply political look in the mirror. Thanks for joining me at The White Lotus. If this episode helped you see paradise a little differently, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Next time on Small Screen's Big Issues, we're heading from resort hotels to cramped basements with Bong Joon-ho's Parasite, a masterclass in class warfare, capitalist illusion, and the brutal architecture of inequality. But I want to hear from you. What other shows do you think perfectly capture the politics of class and desire? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.